we are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here's your host, Michael Storm.
And, wow, gosh, I guess the cigar is lit, the coffee is cold. It must be 1 p.m. Sunday afternoon, and time to do that thing again. It's Toward Anarchy. I'm your host, Michael Storm. Thank you so much for joining me. It is another beautiful day in the middle of America, and it's my pleasure, as always. I really look forward to my Sundays coming here and spending them with you, and I appreciate the fact that you take the time to hang out with me, and I try to make it worth your while. Try to put on a decent performance for you, as it were. Although I always caution about the use of the word performance. I'm not any different. I'm me. This is who I am. The things that I talk to you about, the reason that we're here, the purpose, that reality that I believe exists around us. The fact that anarchy is reality. That we do everything that we do, every second of every minute of every hour of every day of on and on and on throughout. There's these myriad of actions, things that we do and say and work with each other all around the world to create the world that we live in, and we do so together happily, readily, and we do it without any need for authority. We don't even have any consideration for it. And it's a statistical thing for me. It is such a reality. It's such an obvious thing that we do this, that it appears about us as we go throughout our day, and I think it's just one of these things that many people haven't considered. There's a lot of the problem with people not being able to accomplish something is never trying to accomplish it, and telling themselves that they can't accomplish it, and never knowing that they can. And it's no different in this case at all. And so every week we do this. We come here and we try to talk about not even overtly that idea, but just leave that notion out there, leave it hanging while I talk to the people that interest me and interest the friends and fans of myself and of the show who happen to follow along on the social media, and you can help with that. I say that we can do this, and we will continue to do this, whether it's pay for the websites, whether it's pay for the bandwidth to do the streams, whatever it is, we will continue to do this, and we can do it without you, but it's so much better when we do it together, and it's so much easier. It's so much nicer. The whole thing, that's that cooperative. We're providing something, and we're saying here it is. This is what we have to offer, and your choice is to participate in it, to share it, to believe it, to involve yourself in any way with it. It's a completely voluntary thing, and it's exactly like most of what we experience in the world and our experience from day to day. It's that anarchy that we live in, and it's a beautiful thing, and we thank you for being a part of it, and asking you just to continue to do that, to like, share, follow, subscribe. Those are the biggest things that you can do. we ask you for support, the network, Republic Broadcasting Network. I ask you to buy a shirt and help chip in to pay for the website and the security certificate and things like that. And you guys have helped pay for probably 15% of that already so far. And with that's without me even trying. That's with me just putting it out there. And so if we just make that little bit more effort, if I say one more time, click that shirt at towardanarchy.com that's flashing consume. Click that and buy a shirt. It helps support the show. When you're listening to the stream at Republic Broadcasting Network, click on the support options there and support the show and support the sponsors that you hear on the show. And we'll keep doing this no matter what. It'll just be that much better, and you'll feel better about it too because you feel like you participated in it, because there's some of us say we can't do it, whether you can afford to give $1 to the network or anything like that. That's aside from we only ask you to do that if you can do that. That's what we really ask you to do is the like, the share, the follow, the subscribe, whatever platform you're on, wherever you're hearing this at, whatever social media networks that you're on, and we'll talk about that. Oh, yeah, big conversation about that coming up. Wherever you're at, make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe. Take those few extra seconds to do that, and it makes it all worthwhile for everybody. It's a win-win situation. You get the feeling of participating. We appreciate the fact that you participate and appreciate our hard work and feel that it's worth sharing with the people that you're connected to and the groups, and it feels good to know that it's happening. It's great to watch it. One of the things that's happened is that we had that this show in particular had that huge boost from that period late last year and over really up until just the last month or so from a number of guests that were on, and it exploded. There was this huge number of hits, 16,000 visits to the website, way up from a regular just a few thousand every month, a couple thousand, few thousand every month. And it went on for a couple of months in a row there. And it only just started to fade off over the last month or so. And while I knew it would happen, I've talked about it all along. I said we can't ride this forever, that it was it was a bubble, if you will, to do the economic thing, that we had to ride it out and knowing that it wouldn't last and that it would fade off. And it's sad, but it's great at the same time, because what happens is it's sad to realize that boost is gone, but it's also nice to again be able to rely on the data that you see coming across. It's not inflated. You're not basing any reality or future. If you were trying to sell the website to somebody, you would take that chunk of time and show it to somebody. You would say, okay, well, this is the website. You wouldn't, you'd take that few months or whatever of those high numbers at 16,000 and 16,000, and then it was 9,000. Those big chunk of numbers over those few months, and you would show those to somebody if you weren't honest about the reality of where you really sit at, and try to sell your website, your platform, whatever it is you have to offer your show, as it were, based on that, and it would be kind of dishonest, and I would never try to attempt to do that myself, and I just know that people would and do. I know that it's done all the time in websites and on the internet. It's used those peak connections and those freak. Thinking about it, there's an example. That show Shark Tank, there's times in there when people come on the show and they talk about their sales, and then they say where they got them from, and they'll point out, well, this was a peak, this was sort of peak interest, and your peak interest has faded now, and this is what you've based your assessment of the valuation of your company to us on this this peak, but we're on the downside, or maybe even still falling from this peak that you're on, and you want us to buy up here when you're down here. So it's nice to see it actually level back out again, and I start to see, instead of sort of 150% increase in reach over the last week, it's more like 3%. That's so much better, just to see a 3% increase over that 150 is great, but you can't keep it. It's not sustainable, and it's an example of markets. It's an example of the fear over COVID and vaccinations, and why this crazy man will continue to suggest that there's very little evidence that there is any significant value in vaccinating, and I believe it'll be borne out this time with COVID as well. Just one of a million things that we could talk about and discuss. Let me tell you what's coming up on the show. If you go to towardanarchy.com, if you look for April 18th, if it's not right there on the front page, you just click the archive button and you click on the 2021 archive. Look for April 18th. You'll see it's there. You'll see that my guests are Erin and Kingsley Edwards. They're the creators behind Flote. I told you we'd talk about social media. I've been talking about this for a few weeks now, and pumping up the possibility and the fact that we would get them here on the show, and all of the possibilities that we would be able to talk about. Censorship, the future of free speech, all these things, just wonderful conversations, and that's what we will do. That's the conversation that we will have today, coming up here in just about 15 minutes or so. We'll start connecting and getting things in order, and we'll bring Erin and Kingsley onto the show, and we'll talk about the platform, how it's dedicated to free speech and open expression. We'll talk about the platform itself, in what it physically offers, what it's like to use, some of the features that come with it, and the ideas that are built behind it, and then we'll take that look into the future. We'll see where censorship goes, where free speech goes. Try to place that separation too between censorship and free speech, and that line between what private individuals and government can do in terms of free speech, or thinks they can do, or thinks they should do. We'll have the whole conversation. As always, I share some links up there for you. I do it. You can take a minute to do it. I do this every week. Build a whole page and share some links and information to just get it all knocked out in one. You don't even have to follow along or wait, or it's just that one time a week. Here it comes. All of everything that's on my mind, it's all in your face inside 2 hours and on this one page. No, it's not even close. But I squeeze a bunch of it in there, including a link to join Flote. It's really easy to do. You just join flote.com. You go there. You can join, or otherwise you just look for the app in your. It's something you can find in the Play Store. And well, I'm not an iTunes Apple user, but I assume that it's in there as well, and you can load it up on your phone. The only reason I say assume is because I haven't actually gone and looked for myself. I have to clarify that with almost everything that we do and say around here, because I think it's very important to delineate between what I believe is fact and what I believe to just be an understanding, and not something that I've been able to confirm with my own eyes. And I don't trip myself up on it very often. It happened once over this COVID thing over the last year, and given everything else that I said about it and have said about it and have talked about, and it's all come true, given that one little thing, that's pretty good. I'm certainly batting more than 400. I'm swinging in the majors there. Also shared, if you're not ready to jump ship from the Facebooks, and which I haven't. I've just, I don't know what I've done. I've taken my avatars, I guess, and spread them out onto different ships, including this one that floats in a different ocean over here. But MeWe and Minds, I'm supposed to get Telegram set up. I have all of these, and I try to use most of them. at least post a link to the show once or twice a week, and try to scroll through those feeds a little bit and just give some likes and some shares to some of the people that I'm following and who are following me on there as well. That's the best you can do without spending all of your time there. If I spent all of my time doing the likes and all of that, as opposed to anything else, I would spend a lot, because there's so much. You guys share so much good information, and there's so many places to get it. That's one of the things that we'll have to talk about with Erin and Kingsley. Is this, and I brought it up before, it's this idea of creating the potential of creating just an echo chamber, and if they see any danger in that, in what they're creating, given that it's at this point, until it's grown, until it breaks that barrier, whatever that magical place may be, it's a place, these MeWes, these minds, Flote, Think Spot, they're places that people are running to get away from the places like Facebook, and they often will find themselves surrounded by entirely like-minded people. And that really, if you're bailing, if you're not, if you have jumped ship and you've left the Facebook, there is that potential danger of not hitting that same reach and that same potential. But you have to do it too, because otherwise the other ones don't grow. And so what I've done is I make it a little easier for you. I give you the Flote official Facebook page link there. So if you're still on the Facebook and you're not sure about some of these other places yet, like Flote, follow along. Follow them on Facebook and the other places on social media, and see what they're doing and see what they're talking about, and see who the people are that create them. I mean, you can become friends with these people. They're not like Zuckerberg, who he's untouchable. You can't, unless you make $1 million an hour, he doesn't have time for you. You're just a user. You're never going to reach him. You can reach the creators of these other places if you're involved in them, and you can help design them, as it were, and help shape them for the future and what they offer to people, because you won't be the only one that jumps ship. And if you go to Google.com and you type in Twitter bans, you'll see the most recent one. James O'Keefe was banned on Twitter. He's the head of the Project Veritas that's exposing a lot of CNN and corruption in the media. But he was banned this week. But if you type Twitter bans, you'll see it's not just, it might be heavy to the right, but it's not just the right that is getting banned. The left gets banned on Twitter as well. The things that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the big Facebook owned, or the big social media places like that, they're controlling the narrative for whatever their reasons are. It's not even worth questioning them. But the fact is that they have their own reasons, and so the idea, you have to accept that everybody's getting banned, so everybody's going to jump ship eventually. They're all going to be looking for places to express their ideas, and the more places they have, the more options they have, and it'll be tough. That's one of the hard things of jumping ship from the bigger social media platforms, is just the unknown. It's just like anything. You have to take the step. So do it slowly. You create those accounts. That's what I've done. I've created accounts with those, and I'm just slowly doing what I ask you to do: like, share, follow, subscribe, create new friend bases inside these alternative platforms. We'll talk to Erin and Kingsley. They'll be coming up in just about 10 minutes or so. We'll add them to the conversation here, as we usually do. Also shared some other links. I promised last week that GoDaddy link about claiming your online and social media identities. It's not that hard to do, but you should do it. Check out that link there. It's at towardanarchy.com. We'll come back and I'll tell you about a couple more things that are there as well. We'll be right back. If crazy is the label you wish to give me, then I accept it. That's fine. It just tells me where you're coming from. It really does, because I'm not saying anything that's crazy. You don't have to agree with me on every single thing that I believe to be a truth about the world. But if you don't agree with me on the core of my message, then there's something seriously wrong with you. And that's this idea that we all can get along, and that we don't have to have this authoritarian existence in order to create a pleasant society and place for people to live. This notion, we live in a world where when most people say the word anarchy, they believe that it means chaos, when it just means no rulers. And that's very telling of where we are in history, about how the system has been able to manipulate its way to be a ruler, to be absolute. Even here in America, after 200 years, people still sycophants, apologists for the state and its authority, even though it's proven itself. We live in such an information-rich reality, and people are just dumber than they've ever been about who and what controls them. And it's an interesting thing to watch, and it's an interesting thing to study. And the internet has been a big part of it, and social media has become a big part of that over the last decade or so, give or take a few. You can date it back further, but just the sort of modern, the Facebook and things, it hasn't been around that long, and we're still adjusting to its reality. But then it in of itself is a manipulation, and I've talked before about, even if there's not a purposeful manipulation, that there are so many layers between you and the information that's coming through you in a place like Facebook. Instead of you going out there, it's already bad enough when you're not on the ground and don't have someone you can trust on the ground in every single place where information is that you're trying to get. But it's made even worse when it's fourth, fifth party down the road in places like the social media, and it just begs for more attention to detail and more discernment about the information that's coming in to you, and realize that there are so many layers, so many filters, so many different thought processes that the information goes through before it gets to you, that you need to cut through all the layers and get to the heart of a lot of things to understand, to have a really clear picture of them. And most people don't do that. And then the social media doesn't allow you to today. So that's great that it all ties into this conversation that we'll be having with Erin and Kingsley here in just a couple minutes after the next break. They'll jump into the conversation, and we'll talk about Flote. We'll talk about jumping ship from the larger social media platforms and trying to create these places like Flote and these platforms where there's not a push to challenge, for the platform to challenge the ideas of the people on the platform, to leave the challenging of ideas to the people on the platform. And so we will do that here coming up in just a couple of minutes, and a million more things to talk about. I'll tell you about a couple more things after they leave us. One thing we'll talk a little bit about this week, but we'll definitely dive into next week, is the UFO noise. There was more of it this week about the pyramid-shaped object and some other images that were leaked. I'm doing the quotes. I'm holding up the quote fingers. Leaked images of these three, in particular, I guess, UFO encounters that are fairly significant in appearance anyway, and in explanation. They come from authorities, so they're supposed to be real, and we can believe it, and we can just trust whatever they tell us about them. It's just more about disclosure and all this information that's coming out and is leaking, and you have the academics and security people, national security people talking about the aliens and UFO craft, and it's just all. Who knows what it is, but we'll find out next week. We'll talk to Dr. Joy. She'll be joining the conversation and specifically to talk about the disclosure and everything around that. She's a super smart lady, and I'll be sharing all her information next week, and you can check her out if you haven't already heard her. You may already be familiar with her. I'm excited to have that conversation. I'm excited to talk to Erin and Kingsley next. We're going to talk about Flote here on Toward Anarchy. Okay, this is great. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a number of weeks now. So I'm really excited to finally bring it to you. Go to towardanarchy.com. Look for April 18th. Like, share, follow, subscribe. It's really easy from right there to share that link across all of the various social media platforms. Boy, it's amazing what these things are doing and what these platforms are able to create throughout the world with bringing people together, and all you ever hear about is the bad things that are caused by social media, and that's really about the people being poor communicators already and not utilizing these tools to the best of their ability, and so it's all of it combines into this need for people to look for like-minded people, to find places out there that they can communicate with somebody, connect with somebody, especially now after we've been locked down, and just all these changes that are going on throughout the world, and the expansion of people being on the internet and using the social media and the various forms to communicate back and forth with each other is so important, so much more important than it ever was before. And so it was great to find myself connected with the people who created the Flote platform, and then to be able to arrange to have a conversation with Erin. And I don't know if Kingsley is there or not, but I know we have Erin on the line, and she is one of, and Kingsley is, and there are a bunch of people involved now at this point, I'm sure, because it's growing and getting so much bigger, and just seeing great things from it. But they're behind this idea of Flote. If you need a description, I kind of thought myself that was a little bit of like a cross between Twitter and Instagram, sort of the two of them together a little bit, with just some amazing features through it. And so we'll have this whole conversation with Erin about what they're doing, what their goal is, and what the future holds, and we'll try to talk about censorship and all these things. It's great to have this conversation. It's great to get to talk to you, Erin. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me, and if Kingsley is with you, him as well. And just really, it's great what you guys are doing, and it's a pleasure to be able to bring you here and bring you before my audience in particular, because I know that they're ripe for a place for them to go and express their ideas. That's online out there. They're afraid of the Facebooks, and rightly so, and they're looking for alternatives. So it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Oh, good. You are both there. That's awesome. It's so great to talk to you both, and really, again, I appreciate you taking the time. One at a time, please tell me a little bit about yourselves and what brings you to even, how are you technically able to pull this off? It's just some of the things that have led to bringing Flote about, and what gets you here.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've been a libertarian, / anarchist since 2007, and I saw kind of what was happening. The first time that I really witnessed, censorship was during the Ron Paul days. I come from, that time. And I was really involved with kind of the political scene back then and local politics. And it was just so surprising to me, when I first learned about Ron Paul, I was more of like a neocon. And then, you'd watch him in the debates live or even see him in person. And they just, the mainstream media just completely lied and fabricated things about him and things that he said when, you witness them with your own eyes or your own ears. And so that was like very eye-opening to me, just to realize, how we're told the truth comes from these journalists that work for these big corporations that have been embedded with the government for decades. And they just, they just plain outright lie and tell, create really like a different reality for most people that don't look into the truth. So now we're seeing that witness. That's how social media companies, what was so fascinating about them from the get-go, and what they helped provide for people was peer-to-peer communication. Now we weren't relying on these decentralized sources. Now it's becoming more decentralized, and we're talking about things with each other. And so now we're starting to see the same thing, how there was kind of a takeover of journalism and the news and mainstream, channels. Now we're starting to see that with these big tech platforms. And so I've been an entrepreneur kind of in the crypto space since 2013. And I just, we got acquired, and we did some interesting things in crypto and also esports. Just a few years ago, and we decided that we just saw, getting worse and worse. It started with the kind of the censorship of Alex Jones, and I'm not, especially after the Trump era, I'm not really big of an Alex Jones fan, but I do appreciate, some of the things that he brought to light.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and then we saw with Alex Jones, and then actually Erin started helping, us develop some relationships with independent journalists ourselves, like Josh Dickerson from World Alternative Media, Dan Dix from Press for Truth, Jeff Berwick with Anarchy and Dollar Vigilante, and a bunch of others, people that have been working to get their YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, followers up to, 50,000, hundreds of thousands, even, up to Free Thought Project, up to 3.1 million, and overnight just gets taken down for no reason given. The most reason that's typically given is you violated our vague community guidelines. Mm-hmm. And this is an issue. I mean, I've used these big tech platforms, YouTube, Google, to look into things and do my own research and come up with my own conclusions, and also meet a lot of fascinating people that are a lot smarter than anybody that I ever learned from in school. And now, the search results are hidden, or videos are taken down, or channels are deleted or shadow banned, so you can't even find the information you're looking for. So now's the time where basically, I kind of feel bad because not feel bad. I mean, it's an opportunity, but for too long, we've kind of let big tech get out of control, and now entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs like myself, are have to kind of pick up the slack and come up with solutions so that we can continue to talk with each other and talk about things that may be unpopular, but to find our own truth. And so yeah, it's a real unique time right now. And sorry, I took the mic from Erin. She didn't get the word to say yet, but I'll let her add something.
That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's now is like the information war, so we just kind of wanted to throw our hat in the ring and see, what we could do, what we could contribute, what we could build for our community. Because really, I feel like a lot of social media companies out there, they make the decisions and they build what they think their users want. But they're not really great at listening to their community and the wants and needs and really delivering on those. So that's something that I think we pride ourselves on, is listening to our community and just building what they want. I think that's a pretty simple concept, and it works. So why fix it when it's not broken?
I think that's an important point to make, because one of the problems that I find with the social media platforms is the expansion and the growth. What people really want is just to be able to simply communicate with each other, to be able to share information, files, pictures. That's it. We're not looking for a marketplace necessarily. I believe that Facebook's concentration in all of these other areas, trying to really over monetize themselves and the platform, trying to make it appeal. I guess they're just trying to be everything to everyone, and that leads to sort of failing, I think, in the places that are important. And the thing that was supposed to be important was us being able to share information with each other, and that's one of the things that I love about Flote. It really is, so far at this point, it's really no nonsense. It's about just sharing that information, and I don't know if you guys want to talk about any of the geek stuff. I subject my audience to it all the time, and some of the things that are, some of the special features and things that are going on in the background as we're having the conversation. But I just know that sort of attached wallets and all of these of the things that people really want to be able to do, to be able to exchange with each other, so much more than just finding a place to place advertisements within the content.
Yeah. With Flote, everybody or every account comes with a crypto wallet. Right now, we support Bitcoin, BTC. We're going to be adding other cryptocurrencies, and that's a big thing of what we're trying to do is not only connect people and give them the communication and broadcast tools, but also there's the underlying kind of payment channel, peer-to-peer payment channel cryptocurrency that is taking off. So, and that's one of the important kind of strategies that we're going for. A lot of these independent journalists that have these careers on YouTube, for instance. Good friends of ours, even they really started to monetize their channel and make $7,000 to $10,000 a month, and really focus on bringing great current events and just commentary on everyday happenings on YouTube. And since the monetization is taken away from people every day, basically, that are covering the truth and things, buzzwords that are getting picked up by big tech algorithms, so they automatically get censored. We wanted to provide a way so that people can get this new thing called cryptocurrency that is taking off and then kind of eating the world. As far as I think that the fiat dollar its days are numbered because of the technologies like this. And that's one of kind of more of a life goal is helping end the Fed. And with Flote, we just want to make cryptocurrency easy to use and actually show a viable business model and use case behind it. And that is that especially content creators or any users that want to monetize what they're doing on Flote. Well, right now we have it so that it's again peer-to-peer communication and payments. So while big tech takes a big chunk and a percentage out of everything that content creators make on Flote, as a user you can earn 100% of the revenue that you generate.
Well, what's great, the wallet and the idea of being able to send people money or donate or just give to somebody in a sort of default sense. It should have been a kind of a no-brainer, I think, in the social media if you're talking about trying to connect people, because I'm just thinking about Western Union. I'm just thinking about this idea that you have to go over here to Western Union at the you have to go stand in the queue, the line at the Walmart and fill out all this paperwork, and then they have to go through all these questions. Whether to do, am I worried about the person I'm sending? Well, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff if you're connected with such and such person on Flote, and they have a wallet and you have money in your wallet, and you just say, you need $50 for gas and stuff this week. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that cryptocurrency, at least right now, is the best technology for a modern money. And there may be something that comes, better down the way, but right now, a lot of us we live in the modern world, and we use the internet on a daily basis, and so cryptocurrency allows us to send payments to anyone in the world, anyone in the world. I mean, just think how powerful that is without any third parties, subjecting you to their decision making. And I get so mad, even just having to deal with, a Western Union or even walking into the bank now, because it's just, especially after this whole, Corona thing that happened last year, it's just ridiculous. Even our bank down the street, like, I think they're open, it's a Bank of America, and they're open, I think, like 3 days a week or 4 days a week, and they close at like 4 p.m. and you have to make an appointment just to talk to a banker to get very simple things done. So that's the old way, and we're trying to build new paths for the new world. Not necessarily the new world order, but the new world, and technology can be used for good or evil. And so it's just a matter of how we use it. So that's
balancing out Google, YouTube, Alphabet. We're balancing out the evil with the good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's right. We're closing in on a break. I think we have time to at least breach the conversation here. Do you worry at all about this sort of escapist mentality of some of the people that are running to the corners right now, to the Flotes and the MeWes and the Minds and the Think Spaces and the alternative? Are you worried at all that the people will create any kind of an echo chamber, or are you just betting on the long term, knowing that everybody eventually is going to be told that there's something they can't say?
Yeah, I don't think that's really a problem. I mean, even if you think about, libertarians, anarchists, voluntarists, like a lot of us, we agree maybe with some of the major. We disagree more than anybody, right? Yeah. So I mean, how do you have because there's intellectual discussions happening and taking place. So, and I think when we first launched, I was more worried about that. I was like, well, we still want to be an open tent for anybody who believes in free speech and wants to have a conversation, But yeah, right now, I mean, anyone from a voluntarist to a Trump conservative is really who we're kind of focused on, because those are the segments of society that really care about what's going on with free speech. And so, we have to kind of help maybe some of these people that really thought Trump was their savior. And a lot of them are waking up to the fact that hey, things didn't go as planned, and that's probably because of a reason. So, I think there's probably, I would say 40 to 50% of the world actually agree with us, whether they know it yet or not. And more people are starting to wake up to the fact that they something is going on. And so we're here to kind of be that open net for anybody who wants to jump on board.
Well, Erin, as a woman, doesn't that bother you? Doesn't it worry you that it won't be a safe space, especially for someone like yourself? Women are such easy targets. When men were beasts, and whether it's typing or sending miscellaneous pictures. There's that break I was talking about. Think about that, and we'll come back and we'll answer that question. We're talking to Erin and Kingsley. They're the creators of Flote, and we'll be back right here on Toward Anarchy. If you will go to towardanarchy.com and look for April 18th, you will see that I'm talking to Erin and Kingsley, the creators behind Flote, and there are links there. As always, I share these with you. There's a joinflote.com link. It makes it easy. If you're just sitting at a computer, you can go set it up, check it out, see what it's all about. Otherwise, from your phone, just look for Flote, Flote, in the store. It should be the first thing that pops up. Without question, that's what it is on mine. There it is right there. You see the little blue boat floating in the white wave. If you're not quite ready to jump ship yet, if you haven't figured that out, you're not sure where you want to go, who you want to anchor to, as it were, I shared another link there. It's the Flote official page on Facebook if you just want to follow along and see what they're trying to create. And before we went into the break, I was tongue-in-cheek, of course, asking Erin about if she was worried as a woman about this being a safe space for women or minorities or anybody else. Is that a concern?
For me, not at all. Facebook is almost like the nanny, the nanny site, where, I feel like women and even men, who get offended, they run to the platform and tattle, and then they're, then the person that offended them is thrown in timeout. Ultimately, I think it's up to you. Like, it's the internet. There's a block button. That responsibility to stand up for yourself online, that falls on you. We're adults, and we should be able to tell someone when they're bothering us, or they don't even have to do that. They can just click that block button, and boom, it's done. So yeah, that's what I believe.
No, I think that's the perfect mentality, and I'm glad you put it that way, because that is the answer. The answer is not to run off and tell people that you don't like what somebody else is saying. Running off to tattle on people like little children. It's to not see that content anymore, and that's a big deal. I was going to suggest maybe you guys could add a button that says report onto every post. And if it clicks on it, if somebody clicks on it, it just adds their name to a list that says these people wanted to report this. Look out.
Yeah. And we do have a report button, and we have a very basic, simple set of rules that just help the community move along and grow and get along. There can be bad actors, obviously, for any online platform, so it's important to have some house rules. But as far as what's going on with big tech right now, I mean, I think a lot of people can just agree that it's above and beyond ridiculous. It doesn't follow, has nothing to do about legal standings or law. It's just kind of, this agenda really to promote communism.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that. We're going into a break here at the top of the hour. It's real quick. We'll roll right back around and let's talk about it. They're directing us to a future where the state is in control of everything, and that is the truth. We'll be right back on Toward Anarchy. We are off into hour number 2. If you go to towardanarchy.com, look for April 18th and share the links there. As always, like, share, follow, subscribe. That's how we do this, and that's how we want our social media to work. That's how we make our social media work, is by sharing with the people that we're connected with all of these things. That's what makes it so great. The links are there to be able to join Flote or to follow on Facebook as they go through the development. It's still technically in a beta phase, but it's really great. It functions. I'm a tech guy, so I like when things work. And I'm frustrated when they don't, because oftentimes, particularly if Facebook or something made by Microsoft or somebody like that, somebody's been paid a whole lot of money to annoy me, is what it seems like. And so I really am very happy with the platform itself, just its functionality and just the ease of use of it, and just the simple no-nonsense approach to being able to share the money, and I can't wait to see it grow and develop, and I'm really excited about it. And it is an open platform in response to, as you started to say before we went into the break at the top of the hour there, it's to communism, and I 100% agree, because that's what's happening, whether it's programmed, whether it's state controlled with manipulation of laws and communication laws and free speech and all these things that government twists and contorts and causes companies to comply with things that they might not otherwise comply with. It's really also very natural. All of these things apply in the case of Facebook. They're making a conscious effort to share, all of these platforms are making a conscious effort to share a very communistic in terms. Well, okay, because it's not just the communism, it's the socialism too. It's the money and it's the people. It's the manipulation of the idea that we have to all be in this together, that we're all in the same boat, even though that's not true. We're all in the same storm in a bunch of different boats, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying about this idea that the platforms are really responsible? You must, because you brought it up.
Responsible for, sorry.
Responsible for this communist mess, for pushing forward a communist and socialist message. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just in the same way, we've all heard of Project Mockingbird for the media and journalism. Now, I feel it's basically the same takeover with the internet. So they, I think they let the internet. I don't know why for so long, but it seems like they let it, run free for the most part for too long. And I think maybe they thought that they can keep, their agenda or their narrative on the internet without us kind of figuring things out for ourselves. But it's obvious now that they are, hardcore trying to reel it back in as far as the freedom and conversations taking place. And then, that was one of the ethos of the internet, was to provide just, peer-to-peer communication. Now we see things like Bitcoin, taking over, or peer-to-peer payments. So it's kind of terrifying what's going on, because there's basically kind of two narratives that are taking place, or multiple, but they're just pushing theirs so hard now, and now they have, coronavirus to make up excuses to be even more authoritarian. So it's really, up to us, technologists and entrepreneurs and just, regular people to kind of choose to work with, good people doing good things, and we feel that we're one of those teams doing that. We want to support other people doing the exact same. So I think it's, in a way, it's kind of sorry to ramble on, but I see it as opportunity business-wise, but also as kind of a good thing, because it's like ripping off the Band-Aid, and we can kind of see the real face of who are behind these companies and governments and what they're really pursuing. So I'm glad that they are standing out of the shadows more and more every day.
But that was one of the things that I brought up earlier in the show before you joined the conversation, was this notion that, especially at this point, that'll become a little less so as time goes on and it grows, but you're very accessible as creators right now. I was friends on Facebook and social media, associating with, before I knew that we're creators of Flote, that kind of thing. That's how accessible. And that's not true of Facebook with its creators. There's nobody to hold really that the people can really hold responsible, especially when there's no particular drive to that. I guess the majority of people are probably happy with Facebook and the way it works. It's this small percentage of people, us included, who are frustrated with the use and excuse of technology or laws or whatever it is, whatever reason it is, to curtail our speech and to involve themselves in our exchange of information. That's the bigger point.
Yeah, and not only they censoring us when communicating, but they're also they're reading our private messages.
Yes.
In real time. That's one thing too. Yeah, and then selling that information to probably sharing it with obviously governments, and then sharing that selling it to advertisers. So yeah, I mean the time it's enough is enough. Enough people kind of understand big tech platforms and what they're trying to do. Thanks to all the overwhelming information that keeps coming out and being released. But I would actually disagree with you. I think that as far as it's a minority of people that are getting upset with big tech, I don't think anybody really likes big tech. I mean, I would say it's actually the minority that really do that trust Zuckerberg or like Facebook. Maybe they like the platform, but they don't like the culture behind it and what they're doing. And so we're getting to a turning point now where people are seeking alternatives, and they're testing things out. And now we have, more decentralized technology like blockchain and IPFS and others, where we can really just obfuscate, or escape from the things that the chains really that they've built.
It's an interesting space and place to be in this whole time right now. There's so much going on, and again, it's something that I was talking about earlier in the show. It's just this idea that it's still kind of new. This whole notion, especially for a lot of people in particular, it's not new to me. It's not new to you as a tech person, but in general, for a lot of people, using these tools to communicate with each other is relatively new, especially over the past year, where a lot of people have been forced to pick up the technology and learn how to use it to be able to stay in contact with loved ones because of shutdowns and lockdowns and this, that, and the other thing related to COVID and all that. So I think it's a crucial time right now for winning the minds of those people, however we happen to see it, however differently it may be. It's always about a perception, because neither of us has any larger view of the picture. We have no idea really how many people use Facebook. We certainly have no ability for ourselves to analyze the individual sort of input and satisfaction that they have with Facebook. But yeah, just that general concept that we each get about how Facebook and other social media platforms are being used and used improperly and just let's talk about Flote, and let's talk about what you guys will do in the future as it grows, and how you guys will handle. We know these guys, they're just manipulators, and they're just towing the party line. We get that. We talk about that all the time. How do you propose to fix some of the semi? I mean, I guess these are real inherent problems. Sharing of things like child pornography and stuff like that. There has to be some level of AI or implementation of counsel or something like that to eliminate things like that and control that. But other than that, I don't think you're looking to do that. But how do you propose to do that? How do you do that now? What does the future look like as it goes forward for being able to maintain that open space? Because you have to admit that Facebook and all these other platforms were much more open spaces 10 years ago when they first started to pop up than they are now. So there must be some question of how that goes forward.
Yeah, we're creating internal tools to pick out things like that are done by bad actors. I think I'm even more interested of creating tools to seek out government provocateurs or provocateurs or whatever they're called. Agents really, because I feel that I think this is basically proven if you do your research. The Army's psychological online units are graduating at a higher and higher rate every quarter. We've heard same thing happens European intelligence companies. So a lot of intelligence companies are companies, basically, but agencies, alphabet soup agencies are really some, I would say, obviously you're going to have bad actors, again, just, regular people, but they really have the money and the resources to really bring down platforms or try to mess with the technology behind it. So that's kind of something that I'm really interested in learning more about and pursuing of how we can create tools to battle that. Because I think we can all I think that the evidence is out there now. It's a reality that everything that conspiracy theorists have been saying as far as troll farms from China or the CIA or MI6 or whatever are really trying to take over these any social platform and again drive the mud and also promote their agenda. So. But yeah, a big part of what we're doing is really taking a different approach from a more centralized top-down version of moderation to bottom up, decentralized approach. So again, like what Erin was saying, as far as hey, if you're going to join Flote, this is a space for adults, and you can.
It's very indicative of like anarchy. It's like honestly, it just comes down to individualism, and it's your individual responsibility. It's not a collective platform responsibility to curate the content that you want to see. If something makes you uncomfortable, be responsible and do something about it.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously we have, we are based in the U.S. and we're a U.S. company, so we have to follow, U.S. law. And some of the laws, I'll even say as an anarchist, are not that bad as far as First Amendment is concerned. But yeah, I mean, there's this, and then there's tools that we're creating to make it easier for our users to share block lists or mute lists, or help people find people, or even call people out that they no longer want to follow, or that are doing the wrong thing and ruining the community that we're trying to develop here. But yeah,
really?
Again, it's just a difference of centralized top down. Oh, go ahead.
You're talking about being able to share a block list like a blocked IP list or something like that, just to be able, here you go, here's the people on my block list, to take them, add them to yours.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yep, and maybe those people aren't doing anything that's necessarily legal, but you just don't want to see their content anywhere. Or maybe they're just they just have annoying we all have people that leave annoying comments on our posts, or taking individualism and figuring out for yourself.
In case for people who don't know, like an IP block list is you can set up a program on your computer that blocks IP addresses. So you can block out billions and billions of IP addresses all over the world, so computers don't even realize that you're there if they're coming from those IP addresses. But they break them up into lists. So there's government, there's porn, there's educational institutions. There are all these different lists out there that are available that have millions and millions and millions of IP addresses that you can plug into your program, and it'll just block them all out, and they won't even know that your computer exists. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing. So I love the fact that you guys are working on something like that, because wow, and to make it and make them available and open to the community, and yeah, wow, that's really cool.
So the idea being that you can moderate your own feed, or you can moderate Flote to the way you want it specifically. And another big part of what we're doing is interoperability. So making bridges from our platform to other platforms, even big tech platforms, just to make it for ease of use for people. So, for instance, we have a way where you can log into your Twitter through your Flote account, and so when you post a Flote, you can auto post to Twitter if you wanted to. We created, I think, the first way of where you can download your Facebook data, your post pictures and videos, and upload it to your Flote profile. So it just, just in case they are going to delete you, or maybe you want to take some time off of Facebook or delete it, then you can bring all those memories over and share them on your Flote profile and with the Flote community and your followers there. We're looking to do the similar things with YouTube. When you post a video, it can auto post to YouTube, or importing your YouTube videos, but also with alternative platforms out there too. So we're looking at a way to incorporate library videos onto our platform, so all the content on library is seen on Flote, and you'll be able to also post videos to library from Flote. We're looking at ways where we can create restream features directly integrated into Flote, so you can stream out to multiple platforms at once through Flote. So all these kind of things, at the end of the day, we just want to be a very useful communication, broadcast, and payments tool for people to use and conduct business or personal relationships amongst each other.
And to do so with a little bit of notion, a sense of security in their doing so, because they, it's funny that the conversation goes here, because it's so important, the management of your feed, and I've talked about this on this show over the years, and people, it's funny because I get hell for it. I'll talk about managing and being proud of the fact that I have blocked thousands and thousands and of pages and people and of advertisers, and you know why I see the things that I like to see on my Facebook page and rarely run across stuff that I don't find of interest to me? Because I curate my page. I don't spend my time reporting people, I spend my time blocking them and removing them from my feed, whether they're paid advertisers or just friends or followers or whatever they are. And it surprises me how often people make fun of that notion. Weird to me.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my favorite things to do on Facebook is whenever I see a political ad, I report it as a violence or something like that.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely do that. Yes, I definitely do that. Anything, any ad by the military, any ad by any politician, I'm definitely blocking it. But there's definitely a potential of me reporting it as violence. You bet.
Right.
Oh, it is. I mean, give me a chance to make my argument for it, and I will. Of course, they never give you a chance to make your argument for it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Music's going to interrupt us. We're going into a break, and I guess that means we got to come back, and we'll have to wrap it up with Erin and Kingsley. They're the creators behind Flote, an amazing a social media platform in the early stages, and your chance to jump ship and get on board. We'll be right back on Toward Anarchy. Go to towardanarchy.com. Look for April 18th, and right there are the links. I made it, I always do. I make it easy for you. You guys will have to see about getting on this. I have this wonderful little button on here. It's just a simple little plug-in, and it pops up 20 or 30 different places that you can auto-post to. I don't know how you get added to it, but it's called Share This at sharethis.com. I don't know. Maybe get Flote added to the list. It's on there with Facebook and Messenger and Tumblr and a whole bunch of other stuff I've never heard of even. So I don't know. It's an easy way for people to be able to share. I put it on every page. If you look for April 18th at towardanarchy.com, you see right there, you find it's really easy to just click one of those buttons and share, share, follow, subscribe, whatever platform that you're on, whether you've made the jump yet or not. All the punny little jokes about jumping ship and getting on board aside. Flote, Flote, the app, you can find it in the app stores for your devices. You can go to it online very easily. Joinflote.com. You can follow them on Facebook as well, Flote Official on Facebook. And it's great what you guys are doing. I really appreciate the fact that someone, and you're openly to anarchist, libertarian, voluntarist, make no bones about the idea that you're trying to do that and yet still maintain a little bit of respect and try to really just provide the service that you say you're going to, and that's an open platform for people to exchange their ideas. And I love the backbone, the payment idea. There's so much about it, and I'm just excited for the future that you guys have.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think there's an opportunity here not only to do the right thing, but I think there's also a business opportunity here. I think right now, again, like we've said, more and more people are getting upset with current software and even hardware options. So now is the kind of for anyone with a business opportunity to look at what they can be doing with encryption, with cryptocurrency, with blockchain, with anything privacy related, because the trend is here finally, and people are waking up to the fact of what's going on with big tech and government collusion. So we're still at the beginning stages of this kind of revolution or evolution, whatever you want to call it. But I think we finally hit the tipping point, and we have to, make a choice again to support good people doing good things. And I believe, obviously, you're one of those people, and I believe that Erin and I are and our team are that part of that group, and there's many others like that out there. So again, as far as like practicing anarchy or libertarianism, it's about the individual making, not voting at the selection booth, but every day with your money and your attention and your choices that you make. So, I think it's an important time to be alive and
support good people doing good things.
Yeah.
Beautifully well put, and really, it's the best that any of us can ever do, is just offer what we really have, our strengths and the things that we find passionate about, and offer them honestly to anyone. And it's great that you found a place to do that. And I love being able to talk with people who are in that space, because I know I've found it, and it's out there. And I talk about it all the time, particularly in terms of the internet. And it's this need to reach out there in it and carve yourself out a niche, a space, to make sure that it's yours, so that you don't, if you're trying to give yourself a voice. But there are other reasons too for doing it. There are financial reasons. There are technology reasons. And I shared. I'll talk about this later when these guys are gone here in just a minute. But this idea of claiming your sort of online and social media identity, join Flote and grab yours there too. We'll talk more about that. But really, again, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out. You're welcome anytime. And just let me know, tag me, things like that. When you have stuff going on, keep me on the email list. And it's great to hear from you guys. And I wish you the best of luck as you go forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, make sure to check out our latest AMA that we just did. What was that, a couple days ago? I know a few Flote users have it on a loop on live streams, but you can go to the flote.app/Flote page, and there's a recording there too. So there's lots of exciting updates that we didn't cover in this phone call that you can go and listen to regarding the Flote roadmap.
And thanks for having us on, and keep doing what you're doing, and really appreciate the support, and yeah.
It's really any time. It's all about just sharing these good ideas for me, and it really is. And people who are motivated and doing something, because it just shows that you still can, even with all of the manipulations, the coercions, all of this, you can still do it. Thank you guys so much. Take care. I'll be right back here on Toward Anarchy. Okay, as always, the best thing to do is to go to towardanarchy.com, and from there it's really easy to follow along. It's really easy to do what I ask you to please do. Just take that moment to like, share, follow, subscribe, whatever platform you're on. I must state that. Try stuff like Flote out. There's so many different things out there. Other than just that I don't know, what do you want to call it, corporate social media presence that's attracted so many, and there may not be the largest communities in some of these places yet, but there will be, as long as you continue to take your good ideas and your good values there and make them places and then people are attracted to, and build it using the tools that are at your disposal, that they're providing you. It just makes a lot of sense what Erin and Kingsley were talking about in their approach to what they're doing, and it's very anarchist, and it's awesome, and it'll be great to watch it as time goes by and as it grows, to see something so openly more free and mainstream in approach. There's a lot of things involved there. I mean, there's places that you can go on the internet. We've talked about this. There's places that you can go on the internet if you want to be a nasty POS. That's not hard to do. There's plenty of them out there, and there's plenty of those people out there. And they're not all just on Facebook. They're in a lot worse places than that, if you were. But in terms of these places being free and open exchange, places where it's safe to do that, define safe. I mean, certainly the exchange of those words is relatively safe. The exchange of those ideas, they stay there. They stay in it's only every once in a while that something breaks out of those. The channels, I guess, 4chan, 8chan, any of these places where that I'm talking about. That they're social media places. If you don't know what they are, they're social media places that you come to and you can sign up for, and you can create a page just like you do on Facebook. And it could be about anarchy, or it could be about your business, or it could be about adults who wear diapers. Whatever the hell it is that you want to do. It's really just safe. It's just a social media platform, but it's the wild, wild west of social media platforms in terms of that. It's definitely NSFW, not safe for work. That's the idea. And there has to be somewhere in between that, and of course that place is sort of itself, because you make the choice. You click on, you see the link. It says adult fantasy diaper. You don't have to click that link. You don't have to go and see what's on that page. You can avoid it. The same is true of your Facebooks and your Flotes, but more so in terms of Flote being that way, because that's the goal, the aim of the developers is to get you to curate your own experience on there and to associate with who you want to associate with. We talk about it all the time. That's why it's a great little conversation to have had with them. And just one, you notice that Kingsley brought up Operation Mockingbird. What we were just talking about just a couple of weeks ago, Operation Mockingbird, in a very light sense. We were talking, always these things are in the background. All of these ideas, the New World Order, the alien technology, all of it, whatever it is. I'm not laughing at these ideas. I'm laughing because what happens is, so often anytime somebody talks about real things, there are also people who are open-minded and they want to talk about other things too. They want to have a conversation about UFOs or cryptozoology or something along these lines, and then there's always this push by the manipulators and the statists and the controllers and the alphabet groups and the government and all of these people to manipulate that into something more than it is, something more than a curiosity. You know, as soon as I mention UFOs and talk about UFOs, but then I talk about rights and the Constitution or sovereignty or something, there all of a sudden I'm a alien believing UFO. You know, it's meant to diminish the other conversations, and so it becomes noise. But what's great about that is we're going to have the conversation anyway. I've been talking about it for a while, and I keep bringing you these references to it through the media. And there's these national security people here in America and Israel and other places, Russia. It's big. It's made mainstream media. And there's been this talk of particular junk floating around in the atmosphere or past us out in space, and it being possibly pieces of starships or this, that, and the other, and that coming from academics, and it's just all interesting that this is happening all at one time right now. And there's this disclosure that's due. I don't have the data sitting right in front of me, but we'll ask Dr. Joy next week. She's agreed to be on the show. You probably already know more about her than I do, especially network listeners. I believe that she's been across the network on a number of shows, and so I'm happy to bring her on to the show and talk about this finally, because she reached out and she said, I have all these different things that we can talk about, and gave me a resume basically and said, I'd love to be on the show, and I wrote her back and I said, yeah, let's talk about disclosure. I've been wanting to talk to somebody about aliens and disclosure and this bigger conversation that I'm always hinting at. For at least the last year, there's been a couple of documentaries. It's probably even longer than that. It's probably closer to 2 years. There's been a couple of documentaries and things that have been on that I've watched, and so the conversation has been there. And then, of course, all of the things that have happened in the news and this disclosure that's been ordered by the government. All government departments are supposed to disclose what they know. Or I never looked into the specific details, but it's due, and so there's a lot of talk about it. And so we'll have a conversation. Finally, I'm excited. I really am. I'm looking forward to it. And there was another thing that she mentioned in there, and I'd heard about this before, but that was it was something I didn't follow up on, so it was great. We'll get a chance to talk to her about it. Is this attempt to clone the Shroud of Turin, clone Jesus? Supposedly, yeah. So we'll talk about that too. We'll have some fun, but it's serious. I don't mean to at all be lighthearted in my understanding or my approach to any of these other topics. It's purely, absolutely want to know in a serious nature, or I wouldn't bother to have it. I wouldn't bother to even suggest that I would want to have the conversations if I didn't believe that there was some value in them, or certainly at least I think in the case of, I think most of you probably get this by now. If not, you haven't been listening to me long enough. But in the case of the Shroud of Turin thing, I find it silly that they would be cloning Jesus, because it's probably not, and and who would they be cloning, and can they? I mean, is there really any DNA to get from the Shroud? Is the Shroud real? That's, to me, that's a little bit more entertaining than having to do with any sense of important reality. But then again, we're talking about the science of cloning and the propensity of man to manipulate his reality in ways that can be detrimental to him. What if the Antichrist is a clone of the DNA of Jesus from the Shroud of Turin? Did you think about that? She probably has. We'll have that conversation next week. We'll have some. It'll be really great. I'm just looking forward to it. It's been so long that I've been talking about the disclosure thing, to have somebody that has some expertise in it, and to have them reach out to me even. That's what's cool. I really like that, because I'm lazy. I'm lazy like that. I like it when people come to me and say, hey, man, let's talk about this thing on your show. I'm like, cool. When can we sign you up? Because that's another week that I don't have to try to reach out. It's disappointing when you reach out to somebody and you say, hey, man, I want to have this conversation. I want to talk to you about these things and these ideas and the stuff that you're into. It's all wonderful, and I appreciate you, and I think that people need to hear what you're doing, and you get ghosted. It sucks. And I don't like it to happen. So it's great when people reach out to me and say, hey, let's talk about this, and let's have this conversation on your show. There's the big question, I think, that is running around right now, of course, it always does. It works in these cycles. Is you have a president, a left-wing president, and then the number of shootings appears to go up. They certainly get more press all of a sudden because there's this push by the left to get the government to take action on guns. And there's always this question of, why do citizens need the guns? Why do they need the Second Amendment? Why? And this is coming from a guy who doesn't give a damn about that piece of paper and knows that it means nothing. But I'm talking about the heart of it, the core notion behind the Second Amendment, that all people have the right to defend themselves, including from the tyrants who call themselves government, regardless of whether they are an elected official or not, or whether their dictates are strictly legal. We all have the natural right to defend ourselves, and it can't be taken away by government. And really, if they don't even know from their own rag sheets that they claim are so important to them, when the headlines come across their own papers, something like the New York Times this past week, or maybe it was even last week, the week before now, they had this headline about what's going on in Myanmar, and the protesters facing down the military with slingshots and rocks. what's the question? These people have the right to defend themselves, whether you believe either side of the argument, especially since you're an American and you're not there, you don't have a whole lot of say in it. You can only believe what the press tells you to believe. And I don't know if you figured this out yet or not, but the press is certainly, they certainly collude with government to, we're talking about mainstream press here, to present government itself in a positive light, to get them to, they really work to, I'll just say it, to try to be as nice about it as possible, to get them to overlook the bad things, the negative things about government, the negative impact. And it's really easy to do. It's not as nefarious as a lot of people seem to think it is, even though the government does control the central flow of that information circle, the mainstream networks. The truth is that it's not so direct. They can take over control of any radio or television station, probably all the cable networks as well by now. I'm sure all of it, but that's not the same as controlling the output of the information and every single bit of it. So there's always this chance that there will be good information in there. This is just where critical thinking comes into real light, and the fact that people don't use it and don't use these tools, these social media tools and the internet tools, to bring themselves the information they want. It's too bad, because it's out there. Everything you want to know is out there. Still gets me when people ask a question on a computer. Why are you asking a question? I mean, if you're being facetious or you're trying to create some thought about the idea that you're questioning, but to ask a serious informational question, it seems weird to me to type that question in into social media and hit enter and wait for people to respond to it, as opposed to going and finding it in the same amount of time. I've joked and done it on purpose before, where I've said, all right, I'm not going to go look this up. Tell me what the answer to this is. I've done that before. But if I seriously want to know the answer to something, I just go look it up. I don't wait for social media approval of my ideas or for it to point out where I should be looking for information. It's critical thinking, something that it's not getting any better with the use of social media and with it being controlled social media. They got to break out. You have to get people to jump over to a Flote, to a MeWe, to a Minds, whatever it is, and you have to do so by those basics: that like, that share, that follow, the subscribe, and if you can, support the network and support the show. That's all we can do. And if you don't want to do that, if you have something to say, say it. Create your niche, carve your little spot out of the internet. I keep bringing you people and ideas from every walk of life, from publishing to broadcasting, to building computers, to websites, to I can bring you any number of people that they're going to be successful using that same drive, that same formula of cooperation, of voluntarism, whether they even know it or not. That's the beauty of this. I say it over and over again. They mentioned it when we were talking. I think Kingsley brought it up. He said practicing anarchy, practicing voluntarism, and I use that terminology all the time to suggest that that this whole thing is about practicing it, that's what we do. It's not about learning it. We have to explain it to some people. We have to break some barriers, knock down some walls, but the fact is that what we really need to do is get out there and practice it and live that life, so other people can see you living it. Make them jealous, baby. We'll come back and we'll wrap it up here on Toward Anarchy. We're listening to the last few minutes of the show. As you couldn't tell, I'm excited about next week's show. Dr. Joy will be on the show. She'll be my guest. We'll talk about disclosure, aliens, UFOs, We'll talk a little bit about the Shroud of Turin and trying to clone that and the technology and the implications of such a thing. A really great, fun, not necessarily the same kind of show that I always do, and that's great. I'm glad. It's a different conversation, and that keeps the mind moving and thinking about different things. It's something that I started to say earlier in the show and may not have even completed the thought. It's about putting your attention into something you may not have ever thought about before, and that's really the only thing that keeps people from doing it. I started to say about just people not doing something is what keeps people from doing something. Well, what keeps people from doing something? Just that not turning their attention to it, not giving it consideration and thinking critically about it and looking at it in terms of something more than just a passing experience or something you expect to happen, giving it a little bit more consideration in that sense. This doesn't help the show, doesn't lend any money to the show or anything like this, but I think it's a great value to you, and I'm so happy to be able to do it. If you go to Liberty Under Attack Publications, if you want to buy one of their books, you want to help support them, help support their writers, a number of different topics up there, from anarchism and agorism, just libertarian schools of thought packaged in there in a few dozen books in various forms, some digital, some in print. Use Storm. It's libertyunderattack.com. Go there, look through the books, use Storm as a discount code, and you get 15% off. I have the ability to give that to you right now, and so it was Shane who reached out and said, hey, we could do this, and I'm happy to be able to do it, and just spread those words. I have some books to give away. He sent me a whole box of them. I think I've caught up on sending out books, so some of them went out in just the last day or so, it could be a little bit there. They go out media mail. So they are kind of slow boats. If it takes a little bit to get to you, it's understandable. I know that I made the mistake of doing some fast shipping on a few things, and it just doesn't pay off right now to do it for whatever reason. It's still slow. Shipping is still slow. Things aren't right with that. If it's the bigger but centers, the bigger city centers where some of the stuff is piled up, that seems to be it. Based on I get stuff delivered from everywhere because I'll buy stuff on eBay, or I buy from different distributors for the comic book shop around the nation and things like that. And so I'll see the differences in shipping and the different excuses and things like that. So, but it's all, I think I'm all caught up, but I'll get behind again because I'll get some more. I have a ton of them to give away and try to give away, on average one a week. And sometimes you have to follow me on these other social media platforms. That's my push this week. I'll be offering on Flote some books. I'll be giving away some books. I'll be giving away copies of Economics in One Lesson, and I'll be giving away some of the Liberty Under Attack Publications books. So anybody new to Flote, look for Toward Anarchy. I'm there. And go to April 18th at towardanarchy.com and find that article about claiming your online and social media identity. And we'll catch you next week. Dr. Joy is here. Until then, you take care.